Welcome to another episode of the Aligned Life, the Goddess Life, where we dive into living life fully aligned, mind, body, spirit, at peace and unbothered. I'm Hallie, and I'm here again with Isa of Isa's Valley. Welcome again to our wonderful table.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back.
I am so excited to have you back because today is you are going to be teaching us some of the wonderful things that you use and going into a conversation on the ancestral soul, giving us some different exercises that we can use, including clair development. And there's some free links that you gave us as well that I'm going to link into the show notes, but there's going to be a little bit of conversation about ritual too. But yeah, take it away. Lead us into what our ancestral soul is and how we can connect with it.
Okay, so the real basic gist of ancestral soul. We have ancestors. This is something different. So ancestral soul can be looked at like soul memory, genetic memory. And there's that actual science we'll get into a little bit about it. But basically, when you think about reincarnation, when you think about past lives, and I know this is a topic that comes up quite a bit in our community, is talking about past lives and things, skills from the past that we bring forward. This is all ancestral soul. Ancestral soul is a very specific set of ancestors. And some of it may be direct lines, some may not. The farther back we go, the more condensed all the lines became because, less people. And now we have more people and the way that people move and travel. And so ancestral soul is all the lives you've lived before. It is every life and it moves and carries on. And it is the part of us that is rebirthed. When we talk about genetic memory, so there's a science around genetic memory of carrying memory within our DNA. And this is how animals know certain things to do and, right out of the gate, how to walk, how to hunt, how to, all of our instincts. Humans have the same thing. We have all these base instincts, but we also have all of the memory in our genetics. So skills, abilities, knowledge, all these things that our past lives have gathered is also carried in that kind of memory. Now, whether you look at that as specific genetic memory or whether you're looking at that as ancestral soul, everybody's going to be a little bit different there. Some people like the more sciencey side, some people like the more spiritual side, but they both exist. And so ancestral soul or all your previous lives, the thing about it is that is generally kind of an undertone. It's that voice within you. It's your intuition. It's your gut feelings. It's part of the aspects of how our brain makes sense of things. Our ancestral soul is all connected in those, which is really neat because when we start actually connecting to our ancestral soul, we're able to bring all that forth. We're able to tap into those memories. We're able to tap into those skills better. So the skills that we're born with, some people will call them gifts or abilities. They're just natural things that we're naturally able to do. We have these on magical level, but we also have them on mundane, like, some people are really skilled at music or drawing and they just have this natural ability for it. That's because ancestral soul knows these things. And most likely it has spent many, many lifetimes doing these things. In my experience, I'm a death worker and I deal a lot in spirit work and death work. And the thing that I have found through my ancestral soul in doing this work is that this is what my soul has been doing for a really long time. Not every life, but a lot of lives. And so with that, That's one of the reasons why I'm drawn to it. It's one of the reasons why I'm good at it, because my ancestral soul really hones those skills, and I'm able to tap into that and start bringing them forth. A lot of people don't think so much about ancestral soul. When they think about ancestors, they think about, you know, living ancestors or ones that have recently passed and that kind of thing. And so if they're having difficulty with current family members or whatever, ancestor work is really hard for them. You have people that don't really connect to deities and guides of that sort, and so that kind of work is really hard for them. Ancestral soul is the absolute perfect guide to start with. It is the perfect place to start with because it has invested interest in you. You are a part of it. And so everything you're doing in this life, all the skills, all the knowledge, all the experiences, everything you're doing will end up getting blended into this ancestral soul. All of that is going to be passed on to the next life it lives. And so when we talk about legacy, when we talk about purpose, for me and my perspective, this is the ultimate purpose. This is the ultimate legacy that we could ever, dream of, because it is that movement, and it will carry on, and it is something that somebody else is going to access. And so thinking about it in that way, one, makes it a lot easier for us to think about experiencing life and really being in the experience of life versus this, I have a goal of ascension, which I hear often, or, I need to, raise myself above the material. But we're here, the soul's here in a body for a reason, I feel, and it's to experience the human experience. And with that, we're adding the ancestral soul. And so for the ancestral soul side of it, it has vested interest. It wants what's best for you. It wants you to have the most fulfilled life possible. It is going to try and help you in any way that it possibly can. And so, you're not going to have some of the other issues that you may have if you're connecting with an outside guide, and some of the doubts and some of the worries that may come in with that, especially if you're just starting out. And so ancestral soul, perfect place to start.
I like
Um,
that. That's a wonderful overview of that. And I think that that is a good differential to make because I feel like so many of us get stuck, especially with how big manifestation is right now. We get stuck in the goal instead of the purpose.
yeah, it is all about the journey. That's one thing I've learned. The goal, that's once you hit the goal, you're just going to have another one. I mean, it's just a pit stop on the way.
Yes.
But what we experience in the journey, that's really the whole point of the movement, at least in my perspective.
Oh, I fully agree. I think that again, getting locked and lost in that goal, it's very reminiscent to me of the Hindu idea of samsara and being stuck in the cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know as much about Hinduism and Eastern tradition, but I know a little bit. I know enough to be dangerous.
That's okay. They kind of like that. As far as the Hindu deities go, they like that mystery and willingness to just like push forward, kind of like what you're talking about. But also, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please continue.
And so it's really about that. And so there are four exercises well, there are three exercises. There's a ritual, and then there's a conversation. And so I'm going to start off with the very first exercise. And these are things that, experiment. Think of all of this as I am doing an experiment, and I'm going to try some stuff and alter some things if you need to, whatever. And be results based. If you're not getting results, then it's not the right mode for you. Try something a little bit different. So, first of all, self alters. This is something that I know we don't really talk about, but I am huge on self altars. Or, if you have, like, I have a really big altar that's my main altar, and I have myself at the center of the altar. So either way that you want to go, this helps center your mind and your focus on you because your ancestral soul is part of you. You're trying to access a part of yourself and bring it to a conscious awareness versus the subconscious where it's hanging out in. So, with the self altar, design it however you want. I really encourage some type of effigy that represents you. For me, it was a goddess statue that I ended up altering, painting, resetting it energetically and everything. And over time, became my effigy for my altar. Some people I know, they use pictures, they'll use dolls. I even know one person that used a Barbie. One of her kids had a Barbie, and so she took the Barbie and did it all at Make Clothes for it and everything else. But this space is for you. If you're doing a complete separate self altar, make it only self. I mean, just put the things on there that you love, the things that draw your attention, and look at it as something that's ever evolving. Because the deeper you go in with Ancestral Soul, the more you start to discover and uncover about yourself, the more that altar is going to change. I started with self altar and then I moved into just having myself placed at the center of my altar. So I have my goddess on my left hand side, I have my god on my right hand side. And for me, this has meaning in my tradition. And then I have all my other representations and pieces on my altar, but I am always in the center because no matter what, my path is about me. My divine only works with me in order for my growth. And this is my path. This is how they present. And this is, everything that's been has been all the lessons, all the stuff. It's always about my growth. So putting myself in the center really keeps me centered that, this is my path and they're here to help guide me so I can grow better. If you do not have a space for a self altar and or that's just something that you're not interested in or you don't want to put yourself on your main altar, whatever the thing is, think about your body as the altar because our body is the physical material manifestation in order for us to experience on this physical world. It houses the soul. So it's very much the temple of the soul. So if you can start thinking about it from that way, and that again is another really good way to perceive whether you do a physical altar or not, just for the simple fact that how you treat your body, how you care for it, what is, how you feel about it, all of these things are connected to your soul because these are the things that you're feeding your soul. You're feeling this about your body. Your body is the one that's housing the soul. So your body is the temple. So that's one exercise to kind of think about, of how you want to really set yourself. And this is, again, very much for the mind. It's to shift the mindset and it's to help shift the ancestral soul from a subconscious space to a very conscious space. The next one is a mala technique and chant. So if you don't know what mala is, all it is a string of 108 beats. Um, I am a frugal witch, so I'm all about creating your own stuff. When I first started working with this technique, I used just a tiny string. I think it was like a small little tiny hemp rope, and I tied 99 knots in it. And you want between 99 to 108, somewhere around in there. The length matters. But what the mala is doing, the reason why we have this string and this knot, what it's doing is as you're going through and you're saying a chant, because that's part of what the mala is part of it is a chant and part of it is the action. your hands for each chant, your fingers are going to go on each bead. So you're going to say a chant and then move to the next bead, say a chant, move to the next bead. This is training your body to be distracted. And we want that. And the mala or the chant that you're saying, whether you chant it, whether you sing it, whatever, the chant, the things that are being spoken, you're distracting the mind, the conscious mind. You're giving it a job to do that's very repetitive and that takes a little while. And in this training, you're training the body to be distracted, you're training your conscious body mind to be distracted, so your ancestral soul can rise. So it can have conversation and give you messages and show you pictures. Um, we'll get into clairs. I'm a very visual and auditory. Those are really high clairs for me. And so I close my eyes when I do them all, and I do suggest closing your eyes. And so after I start getting into my trance state with the mala, then I get messages. So I'll hear things and see things. I know other students of mine, some people will, get all these emotions that start running through. And when they first start out, it really kind of depends on what clairs are really high for you, just in general, and then what ones you work on. But mala technique is super great at starting that back and forth conversation, because the mala trains our body, mind, and soul to move into soul space. It trains it to move into trance, and you can even get to spirit walking from that space. So with the mala and ancestral soul specifically, there is a chant that I teach my students. There's actually two of them. The chant I'm going to teach here is very, very short. There is another chant in the Ancestral Soul ritual video that is a little bit longer. But this one, Empa O Tika Hesi. And I'm only giving the words because you're going to find the rhythm yourself. For me, it's Empa O Tika Hesi. Empa O Tika Hesi. If I'm chanting it, I can also sing it. It really kind of depends. It's the vibration itself that you find that's comfortable for you and that gives you results. That's what you're looking for. It's not so much the words as it is the vibration that you're putting the words to. The words themselves mean experience in the exchange, follow the heart, trust in yourself, hope and magic. And hope is possibilities. And that's what Ancestral Soul is all about, is possibilities. So that's the mala technique. And it's a really good place to start, especially if you have not done trance work and stuff before. Wonderful.
Are you ready to step into your personal power and embrace deep soul healing? It's time to unlock the magic within you through Inner Alchemy, a transformative online workshop running from December 6th to 9th that will help you discover your personal pillars, connect with your ancestral soul, and tap into the energy that shapes your life. At Inner Alchemy, we combine ancient wisdom with modern therapeutic techniques to guide you on a journey of self-discovery. Whether you're just beginning your spiritual path or are ready to dive deeper into your shadow work, this workshop offers the tools and support you need to become the master of your own healing. And for your convenience, all classes will be recorded, so if you can't attend live, you'll have full access to everything at your own pace. We've made it even easier to join us. Inner Alchemy now accepts Afterpay, allowing you to start your journey today and pay over time stress-free. Through energy work, shadow integration, and archetype exploration, you'll gain powerful insights that will empower you to overcome personal obstacles and start living authentically. And the best part? You'll be joining a community of like minded souls, all from the comfort of your own space. Don't wait to begin your transformation. Sign up for Inner Alchemy today, running from December 6th to 9th. And with Afterpay, you can start your healing journey now while spreading the cost over time. Visit www.goddesslifehealing.com to learn more and claim your spot. Inner Alchemy, where your healing journey begins.
I did mention ritual for the ancestral soul, and I know Haley is she said she's going to post it in the comments and stuff. There's a candle ritual that you can do. That's what the video is. The other kind of ritual that you can do to help bring ancestral soul to the conscious space, so you can start really diving in, having conversation and exchange with it, is a candle mirror. So you get any type of small mirror, something that you could set in front of you and see your whole face. You want a dark room and you want a candle. You don't want to place the candle right in front of the mirror. You want to place it about a foot off to the side. So if you have the mirror directly in front of you, go about 12 inches over and place your candle off to the side. You don't want it directly shining in. What you want is it to give reflections off the face. You want to give very specific directions that you are calling forth your ancestral soul, that you are wanting to see the faces of yourself. If you're using this technique for a very specific memory you're trying to recall, or a skill or a lesson, anything like that, just be very specific to the mirror of what you're wanting to do, what it is that you're wanting to be there for. And then, some people will have some like non-verbal music, just instrumental music in the background. Some people have drumming. I prefer not to have anything. And you just sit there looking at yourself in the mirror. And over time, once you've kind of gotten this down, you'll start to see different faces where it's almost like it's a hologram overlaid the top of your face. And then later, dependent on your mode, your magic, and what your clairs are, where you're high in, what you have, really honed, people will see full images in the mirrors. They'll see scenes kind of like they're looking at a TV and there's like a holographic movie playing. So that one's really interesting. It really incorporates a lot of mirror magic, which I love. And the one part with that, it doesn't have to be this way, but I think it's really good if you just have the mirror set just for ancestral soul. So for me, I have one specific just for ancestral soul. I have one for ancestors, and then I have a spirit mirror. And each one has been cleansed, set, and energetically charged for these specific reasons. That way nobody else kind of comes through and tries to play in a space where they're not supposed to. It's just my way of keeping everybody separate. When we're talking about clairs, everybody has natural clairs. Everybody, every single person has at least one clair that's just really natural for them. A lot of people, it's feelings. So whether that be emotions, or whether you call it gut instinct or intuition, it's these feelings, and it's physical feelings you're feeling. the way that I like to look at clairs is that every sense that you have in the body, the physical body, so hearing, taste, touch, smell, all of these things, all the physical senses you have for body, your soul has those same senses. They just sense the energies. They sense the unseen, the things that aren't in our physical world or physical view. And so in the mind is taking in all the soul senses and it's taking in all the body senses, and it's kind of the playground. It's what's making sense of all of them. It's taking both the senses and deciding what to pay attention to, what to drop, all these things. One of the ways to really start maneuvering and honing clairs is by focusing on those soul senses. So my very first one, I was very visual. And so I could see a lot of things just from a natural state, but still, to me that it's very surface level because I hadn't honed it yet. And so I really started honing that skill. I wanted to see things. And so I started really concentrating on, trying to align myself with my soul senses, still using my body, but at the same time giving that focus to soul. Next was audio. Audio, it really was the mala technique. I knew that that's what I wanted. I wanted to start honing that hearing messages aspect. And so I did a lot of work of really focusing on paying attention to all the small things that I was hearing, not just in world, but all the small things that nobody else was hearing, but I was hearing. Um, Clair development is a slow process. We can start hitting the clairs pretty hard, but it's a slow process. It takes time, and dependent on who you are is kind of dependent on the techniques that you'll use. There are several books that are really good, but I really like some of the exercises that are in the Psychic Witch book. He does pretty good on clairs. But I have always found that by understanding that the soul has senses just like the body has senses, just by shifting and starting to pay attention to those soul senses, because normally our brain, that's not the priority. Priority is physical world, physical senses. We talk ourselves out of all of the soul senses. It's imagination. Oh, it's, you're just overly sensitive, these kinds of things. They're not. It's your soul trying to give you information too. And so I think, for me and for a lot of my students, just focusing on allowing ourselves to feel what the soul is feeling, take in those senses and pay attention to them. That's really how you hone those clairs. And then find certain things, if you want to do the smell one, really, really work on enhancing your physical smell and at the same time feeling, what is the sensations that's coming from soul senses during this. The last thing that I have is conversation with the soul. Um, this is where I started. Um, I use tarot. I think tarot is really one of the absolute best tools for this. And I will again say Dreams of Gaia deck because it is very soul-centered, very person-centered, and it is perfect for ancestral soul work. But don't get so caught up in the way that, people teach tarot and how they view tarot. This is all intuition based. And is, tell me a story. That is one of the best places to start with tarot, not a spread, but tell me a story. So you're wanting to connect with ancestral soul and you want to know something about it. You want to know some story or a connection or where to start. Tell me a story. Say, Ancestral Soul, tell me a story. Shuffle your cards. And I shuffle in between every single card. I'll shuffle until one sticks out to me and I'll pull it out, and I'll shuffle until one sticks out and I pull it out. Once you've got the 4 to 6 cards, whenever mind tells you to stop, when your soul says this is it, stop at that number, flip them over, see what it's telling you. Look at it, not in all of its, individual, but what story across all the cards is it telling you? If you are not familiar with tarot and reading tarot, I always say go to Stitchomancy. And I found that even as a person that is very versed in my tarot decks and in the way that I read, I still find that there are times when if I'm getting a message and there is something that I just feel I am not getting that I know I should be getting, but it's just we get a little tunnel vision sometimes, especially when it comes to our cards and what they mean. So Stitchomancy is a wonderful way to fix that problem, and it's also a great way to start with the conversation. So you do need a tarot deck that's got a decent guidebook, that's got at least like a page or two telling the meaning of each card. And in the links, there is a more detailed step-by-step of how to do Stitchomancy. But basically, it's looking at the card, turning to the book, to the page that's got all the information for that card, closing your eyes, starting at the very top, and run your finger back slowly, back and forth across the page as you're going down. For me, it feels like a small punch in the chest or a clench in the chest. Some type of just, it's like a jolt. Other people, they feel it in their finger. It's a tingle in their finger. Other people, they just have this moment of, stop. Um, as soon as you feel that, stop where your finger is, open your eyes, and just write down whatever word, small group of words, or sentence that it is on. Then close your eyes again. Keep going back until you're at the end of the page. Sometimes you may only get one. Sometimes you may get 3 or 4. When you're done with the Stitchomancy, then you can look at your notebook and be like, okay, so it said this, and this, and this for the card. It's telling you the story that it wants you to hear about the card. Ancestral Soul has picked these things because even though you see this card as this, there's a message that's different that they want you to see. Again, great for also beginners, people that aren't familiar with tarot, aren't familiar with reading, and they tend to be very nervous that they're going to misinterpret or not be able to get the right message. You're going to get the right message with Stitchomancy. I have yet to have a person not get what they needed from Stitchomancy. So I have, it's one of those awe things for me. I have no idea how it works. I don't know why it works, but it works. So, I'm a results driven person. So if it works, it works. And I'm not going to question it after it's been tested and tested. But have conversations with the soul. Really open yourself up to that. We have all these conversations with our other guides, whether it be deities, whether it be other ancestors, whether it be land spirits, or all of these elemental spirits, all these different things. But at the same time, we need to be having conversations with our ancestral soul, because our ancestral soul is giving us so much. The last thing on Ancestral Soul that I wanted to touch on was trauma in the Ancestral Soul. So I have had people, and I'm currently working with somebody that is in this exact situation. We talk about ancestral trauma, healing ancestral trauma, healing, ancestral curses. These things are what we are carrying in our ancestral soul. We have to heal us in that. And So what I mean by that isn't so much, you know, like, oh, I found this patch and it needs to, we need to root this out. But think about the things that you fear. Think about the things that bring you fear or bring you pain, but that have no real um basis. It's not from an experience of this life that you can remember. But think about from, what you fear. So for me, I have a fear of being burned. I mean, like super, super deep fear. I've never had, bad burns in my life. I've never even been in a situation where that was even possible. There's really no basis for me to have the fear of being burned. Like, I'm talking like burned alive kind of fears. And but my ancestral soul does. And we're not talking burn the witches kind of a thing. It was a house fire, I'm pretty sure. But still, that carried. And so it's an unfounded fear that I have turned into a trauma in my own life that I had to learn from ancestral soul, that it was from ancestral soul. And so I did some work there and I did, some healing aspects for myself. I did a ritual of releasing of that kind of fear and energy. And it's hugely better. I mean, I still have a little bit of that. I think now it's more from my nurse side just because I've seen people with really bad burns. But it's not that same kind of intense fear. I know another person, the person that I was talking about that I'm currently working with, her on anxiety. She has this high anxiety that has absolutely nothing to do with her life. I mean, the thing she is having this anxiety about to the point of having anxiety attacks, it has nothing to do with her. And so we were doing some ancestral soul work and it she realized that all of this anxiety wasn't hers. It's ancestral souls. And so she has been picking that apart and doing the things, to reassure ancestral soul, this isn't happening anymore. We don't need to worry about this. We need the memory. We don't want to lose the memory. And so she's writing it all down and she's telling their story so they can let go of the anxiety aspects of it and that they need to hold on to this. And in that, her anxiety is getting substantially better the more and more she goes. So there are those factors too with ancestral soul. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's like everything else, we got some dark stuff that we got to deal with within it. But really, ancestral soul, I love ancestral soul. It's a great place to start. They are the best guides and they are completely in. They're not going to do anything that is going to be detrimental to you or that's going to, lead you off your path. They're going to try really hard to do everything they can to help you learn and grow and be on your own path and experience what you need to experience in this life because you are them and they are you. They're experiencing through you like you're experiencing through their memories. And so, yeah, ancestral soul. It's a great place.
Oh man, this is I have never thought a couple of things for my brain. One, I had never thought to like dive into with as much shadow work as I do into my ancestral soul and use myself for an altar. That is beautiful.
Oh, the self altars are great. I
And
mean, any type of money magic, glamour magic, anything.
right, right. And it makes so much sense to utilize that. And I love this also because there's so many pieces, when we look at as teachers, when we see people with a spiritual need, it is Well, I want to enhance my intuition. Well, I want to enhance my happiness and my success. I want to manifest better. And I want to start working all of these very esoteric practices. And this is like home base for all of those.
Yeah, ancestor tapping into the power of ancestral soul, it will increase your clairs. It will increase your knowledge base. And hello, in some form or fashion, however you're looking at it, you've got people in that ancestral soul that did magic, whether you look at it as folk magic or a tradition magic or just the living magic that happens by living. They have all of this. We have access to everything. And they give you incredible spell works and rituals. I have gotten some amazing, massive rituals and spell works that have been highly successful from Ancestral Soul.
Oh yes. Yes, this is beautiful. This is something that I am definitely going to go practice with. And for those of you who which Isa kind of went into it, but for those of you who don't know what stitchomancy is, just like when you first hear it, it is like opening a book or opening something that has writing and just like using your intuition to scan it for what your message is. And it is something like she said, it is the easiest form of divination. And not only that, but it is a way to learn how to trust yourself and really release those hesitations that you may have about receiving those messages from spirit.
Absolutely.
Isa, this has been absolutely fantastic. If there is one big thing that you wanted, like if you have anything coming up, which I know you said that your next we're gonna call it your next like school year in big quotes starts in October. Do you still have slots open for that for people who may be interested?
Yes. Yes. We do keep the class size low. But we do have slots that are still available for this year. And then yeah, I we I put out stuff on social media and YouTube and stuff that, is for those that aren't in the class, aren't into death doula work or death emissary spirit work, that kind of stuff, that are more just wanting to, do minor connections. So they can find information in all those spaces and on my website.
Okay, and I will link all of those into the show notes so that everybody can find you. Thank you so much for sharing all of this insight and wisdom with us. I'm gonna go find a mirror in a dark room. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a great experience with you.
Oh, same. I cannot wait to see what the future brings for us.
Me too. I am all there.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of The Aligned Life, the Goddess Light. Be sure to check out all of Isa's offerings, including the Death Emissary Death Doula course, the Crane Practitioner workshop, and also for our Inner Alchemy workshop, where we dive into living life authentically through shadow work and finding personal sovereignty. You can find Isa's services at www.365witch.com. And you can check out our other podcast episodes and the Inner Alchemy Workshop at www.goddesslifehealing.com. And remember to live life fully aligned, mind, body, and spirit, at peace and unbothered. Until next time, friends.